Hey YouTube. I wanted to do another little Matt's Ramble today. The point of this one is my annoyance with everyone being an investment expert these days. So it feels like everyone and their mum seems to just know. Seems to just know, or seems to just think they know exactly what the markets are doing, exactly what to invest in, the best choices, the best movements, where it's all going. And I think it's really interesting. I don't know if it's because I'm in the industry that maybe my algorithm pushes more of that sort of thing towards me, but there's an awful lot of, finfluencers and YouTubers and Redditors that all seem to be complete experts in investing. Where I don't, even maybe 10 years ago, I feel like that wasn't the case in the industry. I think a long time ago, 10 years ago, when I sort of started in the industry, it was very much the case that we sort of pushed away and we're like, we don't know what we're talking about with investments themselves. Look, we have a rough grasp of it. That's what we pay investment managers for, to figure that out. They are doing this full time, and that is their only job, is to try and make money on markets or try and invest properly and invest with your attitude to risk in mind, or within a certain volatility parameter. But it seems more and more these days that everyone, I'm just going to say everyone knows what they're doing, or everyone knows what they're talking about, but so often miss the point. Now, I've done qualifications in investing, I've done an awful lot of reading, and I feel like I have a very light grasp of what you're supposed to be doing and how to predict markets and all of that. And to be honest, half the time predicting markets is actually impossible, unless you're either really clever or have a really good algo. I don't know, or there's probably a healthy amount of luck, because a lot of investing, if you're making money, more often than not someone's losing money, especially when you're sort of talking about shorting and actual trading more so than investing. But yeah, this one was more about that than anything. And I think people treat investing these days as gambling. Well, they don't treat it like gambling, but they invest like a gambler. They sort of watch it all the time, and they pick a company and they think that company's going to do great. And obviously, there's these pump and dump schemes that have made people very rich. Those people maybe then come out and said, look, I can do it, so can you. And it sort of led to this world where people almost don't trust the professionals. And to be honest, I don't think the professionals have helped themselves. There's so many funds out there that have just performed absolutely terribly over the last 10, 15 years, with like very minimal returns or no returns in some cases. But I don't think that means we should sort of move away from trusting the professionals that do it right and move into this world where we're all just investment experts and investment analysts, and we know exactly what the markets are doing and where they're going. I think it's quite high risk for people to start doing that. I think for me, I do a little bit of stock picking. I do invest in individual companies, but I don't necessarily like doing it. I sort of do it to try and keep my finger on the pulse and to try and make myself learn more, mainly because I go online, and obviously you shouldn't compare yourself to people online, but I go online and all these people are just, they're experts and they've made these great gains, maybe I need to be doing the same. When actually, I think the statistic is something like 70 to 90% of retail, definitely retail traders, I don't know about retail investors, but retail traders lose money. So I suppose it's the classic, you see the wins, people don't show their losses situation. I think it's important that we try and block out, all us normal folks try and block out that noise as much as possible and try and carry on investing in the way our ancestors invested, the way I want to say the way it's supposed to be. That's probably not the right way of putting it, but the safer way of doing it, because I think you can, it ties into investment risk. There's risky within the safe, highly diversified parameters, and then there's like excessive risk picking one company, hoping it booms. I mean, a big one, YOLOing into all these companies or FOMOing into all these companies that the fundamentals don't seem to match on, and I think I had it fairly recently with Palantir, and I don't like saying ones out loud because I'll just get a load of hate, and I don't hate Palantir, and I think it does have a bright future, but I do think retail pressure pushed their price a little bit higher than it maybe should have been based on the fundamentals. Now, maybe that means the fundamentals are wrong, and I'm by no means an expert, and by no means really understand how it all works, but from what I've seen looking into it, again, this is just an example, I might be completely wrong, but Palantir seems to be overpriced. Things like Tesla seem to be overpriced. Whether or not they can sort of back it up in the future, I don't really know. How much of it is the markets are just smart and they've already priced in the growth and they've already priced in all this other stuff. It's very hard to know these days. And I suppose that sort of leads me on to my final thing with it, which is I'm going to carry on trusting the investment professionals. I'll still probably pick some of my own stocks, but I highly urge, like I said, I've worked in the industry 10 years. I've not invested per se for 10 years, or I have invested, but not on my own for 10 years. But just maybe be a little bit careful, should you be using ETFs, should you be doing certain other things, what split should your portfolio be, what asset allocation? These are probably questions for a professional that does it day in, day out. And the thing is that's really what I don't like about it, is the professionals don't know sometimes. Like, even they get it wrong fairly often. So what chance do I have? So then obviously seeing it online, what chance do you have as well? Don't always look at these incredible returns and think you're going to do the same, because I suppose anyone could go to Vegas, and I'm not saying all this is like strict gambling and it's like putting it on number 4 on roulette, but anyone can go to Vegas and look at someone that just hit a massive on something, but they don't see the 10 years worth of losses before that maybe this big win broke them even overall. We never know. So just err on the side of caution. This is your money, this is your future, and this is how I feel about it. It's my money, it's my future. I don't want to take, I go with sort of more aggressive portfolios. I feel like I have the knowledge to back up that selection, but going for more aggressive portfolios or more aggressive funds is a very different proposition than going with one single stock or 2 or 3 single stocks. And I think that's been backed up by, let's say, the likes of Warren Buffett, who I think famously has said that if he didn't have such a huge amount of money, obviously he's retired now, but if he didn't have such a huge amount of money backing him up, and he started from scratch with a little amount of money, I think he said a little amount of money, and I'm sure it's still in the millions, but a little amount of money, he would pick an index linked fund or an index tracker. That could be a smart move for most people. Again, that still does leave you with some level of risk depending on which one you pick, or definitely some level of overexposure to certain markets. But yeah, just be careful out there. I'm happy to answer any questions from the little knowledge that I have. Again, I'm not trying to bash anyone that has done well investing, and to be honest, if you've made money investing and doing it your way and buying crypto and doing all this, then honestly, pat on the back, well done. I'm not going to badmouth you in any way. Am I a bit jealous? Probably. Am I going to FOMO into what you're investing in? Almost certainly not. So yeah, just be careful. Maybe speak to a professional. Don't rely on videos on the internet or information on the internet too much without at least playing devil's advocate against the information you find, and stay safe out there.